Hey, I'm Brittany Spears, and in this video, I'll show you how to solo Mythic Sepulcher of the First Ones for a chance at the Fractal Cypher of the Zereth Overseer mount. To get to the raid, you have to go to Shadowlands, more specifically Zereth Mortis, and even more specifically the far east side. Make sure before you enter it is set to Mythic. Once you're inside, make sure that chat says welcome to the raid on Mythic just to be sure you're on the right difficulty. And also make sure to pick up the skip quest. It'll take 4 weeks of killing, I don't remember which boss, but one of the bosses, so that way you don't have to do the entirety of the raid, you can just skip to the end of it and make this mount run a lot quicker. Heading into the first boss, the Vigilant Guardian, you don't have to kill any of the trash beforehand, but it will pull when you pull the boss, and specifically this Vigilant Custodian is the one that you need to start attacking to start the fight. The ads, like I said, they'll just run to you, and that's what I prefer to do just because it saves a little bit of time. I'll just cleave off the boss, and any ads that are still up by the time the boss is dead, I'll just kill them. Throughout the entirety of this video, I'll be standing in as many mechanics as I can just to show you that I'm not taking a lot of damage, and there's very few things that'll actually harm you in this video. I'll try to point out the mechanics just so that you know what is going on, but for the most part, none of these mechanics are really worrisome at all. With this first boss specifically, there is nothing to know about. You just kill him. It's really a tank and spank at this point. In this video, I am a 622.5 Fury Warrior. This video was recorded on Tuesday, November 12th, 2024, in patch 11.0.5.57388 of the War Within. I'm not sure what the lowest item level is that you could walk in here with, but it doesn't hurt to just go in there and see how it feels with whatever character. If there is any trash that is up, just make sure you kill them before you head over to this next zone, where you're going to be heading to the second boss, and the majority of the trash here also can be skipped. I was able to skip the first pack here, and then the Subjugator Xel'Toth ad here on the right, he can be skipped, but then each of the other 2 packs, I was unfortunately not able to skip. In this video, you'll notice, similar to all my other mount runs, is that I keep the map open throughout all of it, just so that anyone who has not been here before, they have a better sense of direction, because it is a little bit easy to get confused as to where you're going. Also with the trash, I do speed it up because none of them have any mechanics. And by the way, the Ancient Translocator here, you can go to the left or the right. I'm going to go to the Ephemeral Plains Alpha, which takes about 20 seconds to fly there. If you prefer to go to the one at the top, that's the Genesis Cradle Alpha, you can go there first, but I just have always gone this way first. Once you get here, also, the direction you go as to which of the 2 bosses you kill first doesn't matter, but again, the first one I'm going to go to is Artificer Xy'mox. Just really quick, going back to what I was saying earlier, the trash I skip, or I speed up I should say in this video because none of it has anything that's worth noting, except one specific trash pack, but I'll talk about that when I get there. On this boss, nothing, again, does damage, but I'll explain some of the mechanics that happen throughout this fight. So he does a Decipher Relic, which will make him take less damage, and he's doing that right now, and while he's doing this, some ads will spawn. Kill those ads to get the relic to go away, and then he'll start taking regular damage. And that's really the main thing to know about this fight, is that you want to be killing those ads quickly so that way you're not just hitting the boss and doing less damage. The only other thing you need to know about is, you're going to see here shortly, is it says you have been targeted by Dimensional Tear, and I have that now. That puts a yellow circle around you as well as an arrow above you, and after a little bit it will drop this thing on the ground. It doesn't really matter where you place that anymore. What used to happen is that 2 people would place those in different directions, and that way you could use that to teleport around the room. But since it's just you, it's not going to matter. What you do want to do though is not stand in that, or else you're just going to be cycling back and forth in a teleport, and it's kind of disorienting and annoying. So just make sure once you drop those, you just move out of the way. All the trash here is skippable as well, heading into the next boss. And while we're heading over there, if you like this video so far, or if you like any of my other mount runs, I'd really appreciate it if you liked the video. It really helps me out. Thank you in advance if you do that. The next boss is Skolex. So there are 3 foul controllers casting into a portal in the middle of the room. You have to kill these 3 to spawn the boss. There's a few other ads around those controllers that you're going to pull anyway, and there is a Twisted World Eater that is patrolling around the room. You don't have to kill him, but he does pull with the boss, so if he's in the way, just kill him. Otherwise, like I did, just let him come to you. There's some AoEs that come out in this fight that do a little bit of damage. He has a couple of dots on you that also deal low damage. He'll drop some puddles on the ground, the blue one right now that I'm standing in, that it puts a dot on you that also reduces your haste by 99%. So unlike I did in this video, just don't stand in that. This frontal cone is called Wretch, and it drops a big puddle. Also, you're not taking a lot of damage, but specifically the haste reduction, that's kind of annoying, so just don't stand in the puddles or the frontal cone if you can. And the other thing too with Wretch is if you get hit, you get a short debuff that will start randomly disorienting you afterwards, so that can be a little bit tedious to deal with, so if you can, try to avoid it. The only other thing to know about is Ephemera Dust on that boss, which is a stacking dot. You used to stack with the raid and he would go underground, and then he'd come back up and hit everybody and get rid of that dot for you guys, but at this point that's not going to happen, I don't believe. Once you do him, you can head out and go near the door as you saw it. It will kind of unlock, and then head towards the next boss, Halondrus, who has a little bit of a long walk to get to where he needs to go. So usually the trash beforehand would take long enough that when you got to him, he'd be ready to fight. But because you can skip the majority of the trash now, you're going to see I go over here and then I wait. How long you wait kind of will vary, but I waited about 40 seconds before he was able to get to the center of the room. If you want to kill some trash for some BOE chances, go for it. This boss is pretty simple. He has a bunch of mechanics that absolutely do not matter. The only thing you have to know about is at 80% and 50%, he will relocate to a different area of the room, or of the entire zone here. You're only going to get one relocation because you kill him so fast. By the time you get to 50%, he'll still be on his way to the first, as you're seeing now. He's going, this is how slow he walks. He's going to get to the first relocation zone far after he's gotten to 50% health. And as you'll see in this video, I kill him before he even stops walking, so that's the only main thing to worry about. When he's doing this relocation though, do pay attention to the Shattercast. As you see that orb on the left side, when he does shatter, it will knock you back in the direction kind of where you are in relation to that orb, so just make sure you're not near an edge, or if you are near an edge, you can not get knocked off the platform, because you'll just instantly die to restart the fight. So as you saw, this is where he would stop the first relocation. Once you got him to 50% health, he would start moving where I'm going now, and into the last room to finish the fight. But again, because I killed him so quick, he doesn't even get to the first relocation spot. As such, you can mount up afterwards and head over to the last spot to loot the chest that is there for your loot, and then head over to the next zone. This fight used to take a while. I want to say it took at least 10 minutes, and it was probably one of my least favorite fights in this place just because it was so tedious and every phase was just not really my favorite. So on the Ancient Translocator, now we're going to go to Genesis Cradle Alpha. It's about a 60-second flight from where we are to there. Again, if you went the other way, you can just take the Translocator to this side and you'll have the same flight and do the same bosses, but I've always gone this way with my guild. And now so will you. Next boss we're going to is, I don't know how to say the name, Dausegne? I just call him Lozenge, because it just kind of looks that way. All the trash heading over to him is skippable as well, so if you pull anything, just kill it, otherwise you can skip it, and the swirlies that you saw there, those don't do that much damage. I think I got hit by one of them. They don't knock you back as far as I know, so also not anything really to worry about. I'll talk about it shortly, but this raid came out in the 9.2.0 patch in Shadowlands that was released on February 22nd, 2022. In Shadowlands, it's considered one of the worst expansions, which I would like to talk about, but first, the boss, who sits in this really cool looking room. I really like this place. Again, not a whole lot of stuff to worry about on this boss. One of the things that he'll do, and you'll see it here in a second, is Disintegration Halo. He'll throw a black orb that eventually expands into a black circle. I believe he would throw more orbs out as the fight went on, but this black circle that comes out, it just makes you take more damage from the black circles, so it's not that big of a deal. The frontal cone is Staggering Barrage, it's Obliteration Arc. This does do a little bit of damage actually, even at my item level of 622.5, so if you're lower geared, you might want to stand out of that, but I think it did 15% of my health throughout the entirety of the cast. There's a Domination Core ad that drops puddles that will get bigger. It's a very quick thing to kill. I just cleaved off the boss to kill it. And then he also does Staggering Barrage, where orbs will appear around you and a yellow arrow is above your head. What you used to have to do is the orbs, people have to get in front of you to soak the orbs so you took less damage. But again, it's just you soloing, so that's not going to be a thing you have to worry about. The main thing for that fight is just Obliteration Arc. If you're a little bit lower geared, don't stand in that. Otherwise, it's just a quick tank and spank. As we're heading over to the next area, I'm curious what everyone's thoughts are on this raid and Shadowlands as a whole. For me personally, I didn't progress in this raid, but I did do it a few times, especially during the Faded season back in Shadowlands, and I just really didn't like it. For me to enjoy a raid, it's all about the vibe, and a lot of the vibe comes from the aesthetic of the raid. And especially the outdoor stuff here, I really don't like it. It just feels washed out, and I'm not really a fan of the way that it looks. A lot of the indoor bosses, they're kind of hit or miss. I think Rygelon looks cool. I think one other boss looks okay, so like Jailer for example, but overall, I just wasn't really a fan. But let me know in the comments what you think. So the next fight is Prototype Pantheon, which there's a lot of mechanics here, so I'll try not to confuse you too hard. But basically, you start with two bosses, Prototype of Duty and the Prototype of War. Try to DPS them about the same, because when one gets to 50% health, the other two bosses will come out, and then you want to kill everyone at the same time, essentially. So it'll just make it a little bit easier on you. Prototype of War, we'll do a necrotic ritual, which will kind of happens later on, which I'll show you. And actually, I'll go to the next bosses first. The next bosses that come out are the Prototype of Renewal, which is a caster, which is kind of annoying if you're melee, as well as a Prototype of Absolution. The Prototype of Renewal will sow Withering Seeds, and these are kind of like blue things on the ground. You're going to see them here in a second. Yeah, those blue things there to my left. You can heal those to get a little bit of a heal on yourself, as well as increase your healing a little bit, but you don't really need to. If they die, they just do a small AoE. It's really not that big of a deal. So once you get the second set of bosses to 50%, all 4 bosses will come into the area, and you need to, like I said, kill them around the same time. Once one of the bosses dies, they start a 20-second cast that will heal them. I don't know if it heals them to full or just half health, but in either case, you want to be damaging all of them relatively the same, so that way you're not having to redo any specific things here. There's a fixate, as you're seeing, that is, I don't know where it's coming from, I don't know what that ad does. The necrotic ritual that I was talking about earlier, there will be some ritualists around the room. I believe there's 4 in total, casting in the center of this green circle. That green circle just will do a little bit of damage, as well as reduces your healing by 100% for as long as it's up. So once you kill those guys, that goes away. It's really not that big of a deal. With everything else going on, it might start to do a little bit of damage, but overall it's not that bad. There is white swirlies you don't want to stand in. There's a wind here that you just want to run against. There are anima storms like tornadoes that you'll see here shortly that you also don't want to stand in. I mean, they don't do that much damage, but everything combined will eventually start to add up. There's also a wild stampede where you'll see ghost animals running across the room. They do a little bit of damage if you hit them, and they'll knock you back as well, so try to avoid those. And then, other than that, there's not really a whole lot. The main thing is just, of all the mechanics you have to worry about, is getting the first 2 to 50% ideally around the same time, the second 2 to 50% around the same time, and then all of them dead at around the same time. The Sacred Matrix Otamo, I don't know how to say this. You have to kill him to unlock the door here, and once he dies, he spawns a few different sets of ads. So I killed the first few, and I'm just taking the others to the boss, because there's not really a point in sitting here waiting for all of them to come to me, when I just go to the boss and start that one. So the next fight is Lihuvim. For some reason, it reminds me of Hubil from The Grinch, so I'm trying to think of like a funny nickname for him that kind of goes with that, but if you have any thoughts, let me know. So with this fight, again, like the others, there's nothing really to worry about. The main thing you have to know is that at 100 energy, he will go into the center of the room and spawn a bunch of ads. These, as long as there's ads up, you'll get a stacking dot. That doesn't do a whole lot, but you just want to kill the ads quickly, because I believe he takes a little less damage while those are up. Other than that, he does Protoform Cascade, which puts a ring of orbs around you that will explode for negligible damage. There's an unstable moat that there's like orbs that fly at you. There's a deconstruction energy that puts a circle around you and a yellow arrow above your head. I believe this was used to clear some other mechanic, but at this point, you're just really going to ignore it. So as you're seeing, he's up in the middle there, and then just kill the ads. This fight in particular, I also feel like I remember the ad phase for some reason being difficult. I might be misremembering with another fight, but I feel like the ad phase in this was kind of hectic, and again, this was not a fight that I really enjoyed or anything in this raid, so I don't have fond memories. I kind of blocked it all out, to be honest. Once you kill him, you're going to go to the back of the room and get the Ancient Translocator, and you're going to head over to Domination's Grasp. It's about a 50-second ride, so enjoy the journey, I suppose. Once we get there, we're going to fight Anduin Wrynn, who is under the Jailer's control. There was this big story in Shadowlands that Anduin got controlled by the Jailer and had to do these things that he now has PTSD from in the War Within. The story is interesting how that unfolded. I was kind of interested in that, but That might have been one of the only saving graces from Shadowlands, which I think a lot of people didn't like, so I might be in the minority of that. To start the fight, you have to walk up to him. You'll see that there was an issue with here for some reason, so I just walked away a little bit, and then I just turned back around and walked towards him, and then the fight started normally. So if you have that issue, just walk away, then come back. Nothing here really to worry about. There's nothing major, so I'll just talk about the mechanics in general so you have an idea as to what's going on. He will put a stacking dot called Hopebreaker on you. This does very little damage. He will put Befouled Barrier on the ground, which you're going to see here shortly. This will put that puddle reduces the... Oh, sorry, redirects 75% of the healing to that puddle, which I don't really understand how that works, but it doesn't do any damage to you. So you'll see I just stood in it the first time because I wanted to show you it doesn't do that much damage. He has a Blasphemy cast, which would put one of 2 debuffs on you that you would use to clear by running into someone else with the same debuff. But again, because you're soloing, that's not something you're going to have to worry about. Kingsmoor and Hungers is a frontal cone that does no damage. He's doing that here. And then throughout the fight, Anduin will target you with Wicked Star. And actually, I lied. That is the one thing you need to worry about. Well, not really worry about, but Wicked Star, what you want to do, you'll get a silver arrow above your head. Just keep moving, as you saw here, because there's an orb that flies out and then goes back towards Anduin. If you get hit by that, you get silenced for 4 seconds. It's not deadly or anything, it's just really annoying. So again, once you get that, just start moving in any direction and the orb will miss you. And then the only other thing to note is there's a Beacon of Hope that he casts right at the end of this fight. It's a yellow circle in the center of the room. I used to use that to clear some debuffs, but at this point, it's irrelevant. Once you kill him, there's a cutscene afterwards, and then you can head over to the end here to use the Dominated Translocator and hit the Proceed option, and that will take you to the next area. In this next area, you can go either left or right. I prefer to go right, but it doesn't matter which way you go. Heading over to the next boss, I should say, there are 3 sets of Overthrown Protectors, and you have to attack them to reveal Mal'Ganis. The first one here that I'm fighting doesn't do that, but he did have the debuff, so I believe you do have to kill him. The next 2, you'll see once I start attacking them, Mal'Ganis comes out, you fight him for a bit, and then he goes to the next one. And then the third one, he'll go to the room itself that you have to fight the bosses in. The other trash on this platform you can ignore. And this was the specific trash pack from earlier in the video that I was talking about. That is the one you do have to kill. By the way, if you're already subscribed to this channel, thank you so much. It does mean a lot to me. And if you're not already subscribed, if you like this video or any of my others, if you could at least consider it. So the next bosses, I should say, are the Lords of Dread, Mal'Ganis and Quintessa. So try to kill them around the same time, because when one of the bosses die, they do an increasing raid-wide damage effect until the other boss is dead. I don't really know how much damage that does at max level now, but just to avoid any unnecessary damage, try to keep them even. Mal'Ganis will do a few abilities, including Cloud of Carrion, which will put a green circle around you that does increasing damage. This will eventually get dispelled by itself when Quintessa does Fearful Trepidation, which is a purple circle around you. This used to fear other players, but now it just kind of exists, and eventually it removes the green circle from you. Mal'Ganis also does Manifest Shadows, which will spawn an Inchoate Shadow that casts Ravenous Hunger. This deals small damage and will heal itself for 15% each time. You need to let it get to 100% health before you kill it, or else it's just going to stay alive the entire time. There's also Slumber Cloud, which Quintessa does, which just puts a purple swirly and pool on the ground, so that'll sleep you for 8 seconds if you sleep in it. If you stand in it. Sorry, don't sleep in that. Definitely not. At 100 energy, they channel Swarm of Decay and Darkness for about 20 seconds. That does raid-wide AoE. Doesn't really hurt. Just keep on damaging them. The main thing is just letting the Inchoate Shadow get to 100%, so that way you don't have an extra add up. And then not standing in the purple swirly and killing them around the same time. After that, you'll use the Ancient Console to proceed and hit Proceed to get back to the main area. Unless you did that boss second, you can proceed to the next area. But because I did it first, I have to go still kill Rygelon, which is actually the one fight I did die to in this video, because I was doing mechanics incorrectly, but you still do kind of need to have some decent gear to do this, so this might still be a little bit of a challenge if you're a little bit undergeared. All the trash heading over to him is skippable, and the boss has a lot of mechanics that stack up in damage, so this is one of the fights where knowing the mechanics does kind of help out a little bit. He does Celestial Collapse, and what that does is that there will be 6 collapsing quasar spawns around him, and that will move towards the boss, and you'll see it here very soon. Each one of those that hits him will give him a stacking 20-second buff that increases his damage by 30% per stack, and it does an AoE every 3 seconds that increases per stack. So you're seeing them come out here. I let all of them hit the boss, and then you'll start seeing my health throughout this fight just drop significantly. So those you want to kill, at this point they're very easy to kill, but just make sure they're not getting to the boss. He has a Dark Eclipse dot that deals a bit of damage when it expires, and when the Quasars die, they will drop a blue circle that you'll see near the end of the fight, that you can stand in to clear this before it expires. That doesn't really matter, but if you wanted to, you could. There are 2 stacking tank dots that will just keep building and add even more damage, so just, as you saw, I died there and I'm just going back. And there's the Ancient console if you need to, otherwise just go to the next boss. And there's also, you saw there was a blue circle around you that had a blue orb casting into it. This just deals more damage. I don't know where I pulled trash back here, but I went back to kill that. But as you see, there's a bunch of damage on that fight, and you want to avoid as much of it as possible. So the main thing you want to do is just make sure you kill those Quasars, because that's what's going to kill you. Make sure to focus on those Quasars, and everything else should hopefully not deal that much damage, and you'll have more time to kill the boss without getting absolutely nuked. But again, if you're undergeared, that might be a little bit of a problem. To unlock this door, you have to kill Mortos, and then we're going to go to the last boss. There is a cinematic before you start the jailer, and then just make sure you're waiting for the path to open, because I believe you can still fall off, so that would be annoying if you did that. So the jailer is, I really like this room. It looks awesome. I think the jailer was one of the only fights I liked in this place, but this honeycomb looking room is really cool. Don't fall in the holes, by the way. That's the main thing I should mention. He has a few things, including oppression, which will pull you in. Just eat it. It doesn't hurt. He will put a black circle around you called Martyrdom, which is a combo of tank attacks. There's a roots, some debuff that increases your damage taken, and a bleed. This doesn't matter. You'll see it a couple times in this video, but I don't actually use the mechanic. There is a rune of domination. There will be a rune above your head. Don't worry about that now. It just throws you up into the sky. Once it expires, you used to have to jump into the holes, and then it would shoot you back up. Don't do that now, especially if you don't know what you're doing, because you have to like time it perfectly, and it's just annoying. So I have the rune right now, but I damage him past getting shot up. The main thing to worry about though is this: when these pillars come up, make sure you're close to one and go behind it to LOS him, because if you don't LOS it, you'll get mind controlled and the fight will reset. That is the main thing to focus on in this fight, is just making sure that you stand behind a pillar and don't get mind controlled, or else the fight will reset. Other than that, and that's the Relentless Domination cast, that is that. Other than that, you're seeing here he does Diverted Life Shield near the end of the fight, which will heal him for 1% every second, and then puts a damage absorb on him. Just makes the fight a little bit longer. But then once you kill him, hopefully you get the mount. There is a cinematic after, and the exit to the entrance of the raid is on the other side of this room, so if you want to quickly exit, you can do that. So hopefully you got it. Let me know how your luck is, and thanks for watching. If you want to know how to solo Mythic Sanctum of Domination, click the video on screen now. There's 2 mounts and a legendary bow that you can get from that. Love you lots. Thanks again for watching. Take care.